Okay, hello everybody and welcome. We have David Melone, the inventor and the manufacturer of our fantastic InLight Therapy systems. And this is a real amazing opportunity for us to get to ask David questions. But first, we're going to hear from him a little bit about how he got to where he is today with InLight. And anything, David, that you want to share with us, and then we'll throw some questions at you. And at the end, in case the people on the listening to this or watching this have not seen some of the new product or whatever, we're going to show that at the very end. Okay. And also, I want to say that I know that there are people on this recording that may have invited others. So if you're someone that is one of an authorized rep with InLight, please feel free to tell your people to talk to you after this is over with. Okay, and so David, take it away.
All right, so I'm David Melone. I am the founder, the inventor, the manufacturer, and distributor of the InLight Therapy products. Wow, the biggest question I get asked lately is why are our products better? Why are they more expensive than the other products? We'll get into all of that. Let me first give you my history. Well, I was introduced to the product by a man named Dan Paris. Dan got the first US patent in 1985, and that's the first year that he called me. I'd just gotten out of the Marine Corps in 1985, which makes me old now, just saying. I mean, not old, but a bit there. I turned 60 on January the 12th, so now we know.
You
So he called
youngster.
and he asked me to join the company, and I did. And now I thought it was a temporary job. It was like, this isn't something I'm going to do forever. But 39 years, I mean, it'll be 40 years in January. I have actually pretty much done it forever, at least my entire life. Oh, so InLight, I mean, light therapy, how we started was Dan was using a thing called auricular therapy. It was using acupuncture needles in the ear in the auricular area to stimulate a acupuncture point using an electron. When the FDA came through and they said that, acupuncture needles are not FDA cleared in this country, and it put him out of business. And then he thought, well, if I can't stimulate an acupuncture point with an electron, maybe I could do it with a photon. And a photon is a particle of light. And that was the beginning of LED light therapy. I mean, he got the first patent in 1985. Now I look at it and there's so many companies coming on. I mean, so my journey when we first started, the FDA said, David, we will never approve an LED light therapy device. We do not do energy medicine. This is not something that's ever going to happen. This is the first FDA agent that I encountered. It took another 20 years before I had an FDA agent that was open to it. And we started from there. The next step was called a 510K, and a 510K in 1976, Gerald Ford signed an act called the Device Act. Before that, drugs were approved. Now devices were going to be approved. We were not grandfathered in at this point, so we had to go through the back door. We had to, do all the stuff, open everything up, show efficacy, show effectiveness, show that it didn't hurt anybody, right? And we finally got our first 510K. Well, the first one was in early 2000s. Then we got another one in 2015. Now a 510K is a government document that says it lists every single thing you do, every part, every component, what you intend to do. It's a huge document. Like I said, it was over 500 pages. This thing was like 4 inches thick. Well, I was just amazed at how much documentation that they needed. Now you need nothing. Now the classification, it's been shown shown so effective that there's no longer an FDA 510(k) requirement. They've lowered it to what's called an ILY. And an ILY category allows everybody to come into the market without doing any of the work that got them there. It also does not have to, you no longer have to prove efficacy. You don't have to do any of the things that we had to do. You actually don't even have to prove it's effective. You just have to pay a $9,000 fee and you're in. So for me, that's a double-edged sword. It's allowed, people to come in with a device that's $200, $100. It doesn't talk about pulsing. It doesn't talk about multiple wavelengths. It just says that light therapy is effective and helpful. And yes, it is, but I would say that dosage, that the effectiveness all comes from, the history, the knowledge that we've had. We could make a device twice as strong as I make right now, but the body couldn't absorb it if I cut the time in half. I mean, we've seen this over and over. So if I made a device twice as effective and said it's a 10-minute treatment, it just doesn't work. If I made a device with a single wavelength of light, just infrared or just red, the body plateaus after about 2 weeks, and then you need to change it up. You either need to stop treatment or you need to back off the treatment for a week or so, and then you do it again. The biggest breakthroughs I saw, and let's go back to the beginning. When I started, it was a 1 milliwatt laser. Now, a laser isn't like an LED. A laser is a collimated beam of light, so it comes off at a straight angle, not like LEDs do. And that was 1 milliwatt. And we pulsed that at a 50% duty cycle by using a wheel to cut off the light, because a laser wasn't solid state. It didn't like it is today, where you can turn it on and off at 20,000 cycles per second. You couldn't do that. It literally was a beam of light that was created by a helium neon laser, right? Helium neon is a cold laser. Ruby lasers and everything are hot lasers. They will burn. Helium neon, like I said, cold light. So at first we're doing it for auricular therapy. The original device was about 27 pounds. It was, I don't know, huge, right? We veterinarians were the first people to adopt this technology. I don't know why, but they did. They did the original research. All of the Noget frequencies 1 through 7, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, were they were by a doctor named Paul Noget, or Dr. Paul Noget. He was the first person, and he was doing auricular therapy, and he was doing a harmonics of a frequency, and we started doing the same thing. So the veterinarians adopt it and they're using it. And one day a horse runs into a fence at a race, and the wound is massive, so big that the track veterinarian comes and says, "We're going to put the horse down." So the veterinarian with the device keeps bathing the area, and you think about carrying a 27-pound device, and he's circling this huge wound with a single pinpointed beam of light. And after about 2 hours, the veterinarian comes back, the track vet, and says, "I swear that wound looks better." He says, "We'll wait till the end of the day, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see how things work out." At the end of the day, the track vet came by and said, "I don't think we need to put the horse down." After that, we realized that it did way more than stimulate an acupuncture point. It actually accelerated healing. The next iteration, now we're up to around 1988, 1989, was we had a hard durometer, a hard inflexible rubber, like tire rubber, that we would put 12 LEDs in. We had a vinyl case over the front of it, over the top of it. And we would then put that on, the injuries, on whatever was wrong with the horse. After that, we increased to 15 LEDs. Then let's go forward to around 1998 or so. I'm manufacturing these devices when now we've got 50 LEDs in a pad that is 3 by 6 inches. So I mean, it's tremendously more. And at this point, they're up to 12 milliwatts. 12 milliwatts per centimeter squared pulsed at a 50% duty cycle, compared to 1 milliwatt pulsed at a 50% duty cycle would be half a milliwatt. And we see, wow, the benefits just got amazing. I mean, once we added a secondary wavelength of light, for the longest time, we only had infrared. We found that horses responded to red LEDs, and people wanted to use a flexible substrate on horses with a red LED. We made these devices out of a soft durometer neoprene called, well, neoprene. And this is what really got us thinking about adding the secondary wavelength. Now we're about 2002, 2003 when, man, I can't think of his name. I will in a minute. This doctor, he contacts me and he says, you know, doctors really don't want to learn this, David. They know it's safe and effective. We want an on button and an off button with an effective treatment. And he said, could you make a device that cycled through all 7 of the Auger frequencies? And I said, well, yes, I can, but I don't know if it's going to be effective. But once again, at this point, I mean, what's the definition of science? It's observing things and experimenting and seeing, you know, observing the outcome. So, of course, I said yes, and I manufactured the device. It was probably the biggest breakthrough light therapy's ever had. I mean, 2 wavelengths is the first, well, first just light therapy, period, right? Second, 2 wavelengths, and then cycling through all the different frequencies. Then we found out that you didn't have to wait. You didn't have to only treat 20 minutes 3 times a week for 2 weeks and lay off a week. Now you could treat 20 minutes, 30 minutes every single day, and you still got efficacy. The wounds got better, the treatment got better, everybody, you know, healed. Then we decided to move into, I did. Dan stayed where he was at. Dan is still alive today. He's 87, 88 years old. He's a good friend of mine. If I could pick a dad, it would be Dan. He is the adopted father I would like to have. He stayed there. I took the hard route and I decided to try to get it approved by the FDA. And that took forever. I mean, butting heads and so much money that I didn't have, so much time. Now here's where we're at. We have this device that literally has healed hundreds of thousands of people. I can't even tell you how many I've manufactured. I stopped counting a long, long time ago. And sometimes people send devices in for repair, and I look at them and go, I don't even remember making it. It was that long ago. I mean, I will start my 40th year, like I said, in January. 40 years in light. I mean, think about that. Who gets to spend 40 years, spend their entire adult life manufacturing something that gives healing, gives help, gives hope to others? I mean, I'm blessed beyond belief.
Right.
It was the hardest journey. I've been sued so many times, so many times. And a lawsuit in like a week. The average one's like 2, maybe 3 years. The last one I went through was 4 years long. This gentleman he'd already been told before he even heard about our product that he needed a double amputation. I mean, heavy drinker, smoker, overweight. He went in for one treatment of our device and then claimed that we burned him. And well, we didn't. I won in court, but you know what? You really win a giant bill, but you're still exonerated. And I didn't go out of business, which was the whole goal. I mean, I might give up. No, never give up, but you can't take it from me, right? I mean, this is for some reason my path. I mean, I don't feel like I picked it. I feel like it picked me. It's been a lifelong journey, and now we're to a point where, wow, I'm just thrilled that I stuck to it. There was a lot of times I thought about not doing it. I could have picked anything else, but this is it. Now I'm at a point where every day life gets better. I got a call yesterday. Just takes a second. A family who the patriarch of the family was going to pass. He had been in a coma. He'd been in a coma for about 3 weeks. He hadn't spoken to anybody, and they put the InLight Therapy system on him, and he woke up. He, for the next 4, maybe 5 days, talked like he was, a kid. He closed out all of his affairs, and then he passed. And then yesterday, I got a call from the wife and 2 daughters and a son, just telling me that, well, what a difference it made to have him back, to have him close out his affairs. You hear something like that, and it's hard to take in. I mean, I didn't do it. I mean, I made a device, but it wasn't just me, right? It's all the people that shared. It's all the people that have had positive results. I think that's why it works so well. I also think it's intention. I honestly believe you have to have the intention that what you're doing is good and helpful, and I think that intention passes on to other people. And so this is where we're at right now. I probably talked too long. Ginger, go ahead, ask me whatever's next.
Okay, well, just on the notion of intention, just
Mhm.
as a reminder for all of us that intention sets a blueprint for manifestation. And so if your intention was to learn to help the animals, learn to help the people, keep making a better product, well, you certainly have fulfilled on that intention. And just with the people on this call right now, and I realized that when I sent out my sister just notified me that you're starting an hour too early. So we'll start over. We're going to start over. Um, we'll answer the questions of this group right now, talk to this group, but then we're going to
That's
start
hilarious.
over. Yeah, somehow, I don't know how I messed that up. But anyway, it's perfect because
Mhm.
we can use this recording and we can use the next recording as well. But so I have been with your product, and now I don't know why I can't remember what the year was, but I think it was 2009-ish. Does that sound right?
It sounds 9 or 10. You and I met 2012, and you'd
Okay.
already been using it for several years.
Yeah. And so I think most of the people on this call, know the story of how I came to it, but I think it's worth repeating because I do think that we each have our own story of what got us to the light, And for those of you all that know my work in understanding energy, you know that everything that can help us to raise our vibrational frequency, I'm for. And I think every one of us on this, we're for that because happiness is a function of what I call above the line living, and that's in the higher vibrations of light. But when I first came to the InLight system, it was David was contract manufacturing for another organization, and it was called Avalon. And I was not looking for another uh, expensive toy in the field of energy medicine. I was perfectly happy being a biofeedback instructor and a practitioner, and the other modalities that I was trained in, Hannah Kroger's work, all those other things, herbs, homeopathics, you name it. But I was really interested in the anti-aging benefits of the Avalon system. And so because I heard people coming into my office seeing a different practitioner for having the light therapy. And so what I did was sneak over to their booth, to her little cubicle area, because she had told me I could use her device one day when nobody else was in the office, put that face mask on and, for anti-aging reasons. And then after 20 minutes, when it shut itself off, and I know most of you all have used the system, you know that it, shuts itself off after 20 minutes and you can turn it back on. But anyway, I went and looked in the mirror to see if my, gobble neck was smaller. And I didn't notice any difference. Not that I should in one session, but you never know. But then I got in my car to go for lunch. A song came on the radio and I started singing. And I had not been able to sing for 2 solid years. And singing to me is very important. You know, I've never been a soloist or anything. It's not about that. But I wanted to be able to sing some of the songs that I had personally written. And but I wanted to be able to sing Happy Birthday to my children and Santa Claus is coming to town. You know, those were like, that's what I wanted to do. And so for 4.5 days, I could sing and the notes would connect because they hadn't been connecting. And then on the afternoon of that, you know, fifth day, the gravel came back in my voice and the notes wouldn't connect anymore. And so I was really like mad at God about it, you know, which is so silly for, you know, sometimes we humans think God, you know, wants to snatch our stuff from us to punish us or something. It was just really a silly even thought. And I even knew it at the time that it was ridiculous. But anyway, wait, I've got some background noise. Let's see. Hold on. If you're not muted, go ahead and mute everybody. But anyway, so, and for some of you all coming on now, we know that we've started early, but we're going to repeat some things. So anyway, I went back after, so I had the thought, well, what, you know, maybe God's not snatching my voice. Maybe, you know, I just need some more of the light therapy. So I went back to the office and I used the face mask and I've been able to sing ever since. And so that's really how I came to light therapy and to David's product. And then, you know, I've been with your company since that time. And a lot of us that are on this call or that'll be listening to this call have been with you over a decade. And we have seen what I consider to be miracles, honestly. I mean, let's distinguish for a second the difference between a miracle and a healing. A miracle is something that happens, you know, in one, you know, boom, you had this issue and now you don't have it anymore. Well, that's really what happened with my voice. A healing is something that takes place over time. Mostly what we see using photobiomodulation, the fancy name for light therapy now, mostly what we see are healings, that there seems to be a cumulative effect that as we use the light system on ourselves and our family and our clients or whatever, they get better over time. And that's why a lot of us, of course, we have our own systems at home, and we think every home should have one, but we also, many of us, use them in our practice. So what I'd like to do right now is to just see if there's anybody who has a question for David. But yeah, there is a question. So Carol, what's the question?
Alicia asked, are these considered medical grade devices?
Alicia's asking, are these considered medical grade devices? You want to take that question, David?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we got, like I said, the first 510K for FDA use for this product. It was actually called an IDE, Experimental Device Exemption. It totally medical grade. I mean, we had to jump through all the hoops. We had to go through UL testing, and that was a thing. I mean, that cost, God, I don't know, $35,000, $40,000. UL testing was something that, well, I'd never done, never been through. When I went through it, one day I get a phone call, and it's from the testing guy at UL, and he goes, at 20,000 volts of static electricity, your device shuts off. And I said, okay. And he said, is that good or bad? And I said, well, that's good. I mean, that's fail safe. And he was like, that's all I needed to hear. And I was like, wow, I mean, testing is, this is where we're at now. This is what I don't like about the new category. You can literally just say whatever it is you think, and they just approve it. I mean, so we're 100% a FDA approved or FDA cleared medical device. Approved is for drugs, cleared is for devices. It's, you know, there's a big distinction. So a lot of the devices you see on the internet, on Amazon, say we're FDA cleared, and the minute that I read that, I'm like, then you didn't go through the FDA process, because you know for a fact they hammer into you it is not approved, it is cleared. It's such a big distinction. But no, we're totally an FDA approved medical device.
Yeah, so what, you know, just to reiterate what David's saying is just watch out. If anybody says their device, their energy medicine device or whatever is FDA approved, pretty soon the FDA is going to be knocking on their door because the
Exactly.
FDA does not approve these devices. They clear them. Now, one of the things that he just mentioned is that about 5 or 6 years ago, the FDA, well, prior to 5 or 6 years ago, um, we had to have the 510K registration with the FDA, and David's devices were cleared as a class 2 medical device. And what that means is that's a device that does no harm. Well, fast forward to about 6 years ago, the FDA changed the category for light therapy or low level light therapy, LLLT, or it used to be low level laser therapy or whatever,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
anyway, now it's low level light therapy, whatever. But the fancy name the industry wants us to use is photobiomodulation. But the FDA has changed the classification to much broader, to where it as a general wellness device, so that manufacturers no longer have to have the 510K registration. And what David is saying that, is that that's a double-edged sword, because that lets let a lot of people, just come in and say, oh, well, let's see, I can make something that looks like David's device, pads. And sure, they can put red light diodes in neoprene pads, and it can look pretty similar. So David, if they can do that, then what's the difference? If it looks like yours, then why might it be like yours or not be like yours?
I mean, first of all, let's look at the history. We've done this for 39 years. It'll be 40 years in a few months. We stand behind it. We repair devices that are up to 15 years old. It's hard to repair devices older than that. Wow. We pulse it through multiple frequencies. There's so many things that we do with the two different wavelengths of light. I was recently talking to someone that's very knowledgeable in the industry, and they were talking about efficacy and time and power and how much the human body can absorb. I mean, now there's blankets. Now, remember, LED light therapy is a vasodilator, so we're going to increase circulation. The original 510K was for the increase in circulation and the decrease in pain, which is, pretty much everything in healing. I mean, almost all healing is a lack of circulation, and that causes pain. So it's pretty broad. Now you could put a device that's 1/10 of our power or one that's 20 times our power. Some devices, recently I saw one that was a 60-watt device, 60 watt. Now, I don't know how many people here are old enough to have touched a 60-watt light bulb, but it will burn you. I mean, you couldn't put 60 watts in a collimated beam of light and do anything but cut or excise or burn. I mean, our devices, it's anecdotal. We've had so many people do the research and report back, and isn't it? I mean, that's the very definition of science. I know that I tried a device with, we've tried, I thought, well, red light works, blue light works, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So a full spectrum light with the infrared as a carrier wave would be even better. And we had horrible results with it. And people actually went backwards. There's so much involved. I mean, when blue shifts to UV, negative results. So why do we do what we do? I mean, we do it because it helps, and we continually grow, we continually learn, we keep dialing it in. I feel like right now what we've got is amazing. I hear stories every day. I don't even listen to them all anymore. I mean, it's too much to take in. At some point, they confuse what the device does with me, right? And they're like, you've saved me. And I'm like, no, I did not. I made a device, and that device, people brought it to you, and that device has helped you. It wasn't me. I mean, it's too much to take in. If I started believing everybody said that I saved their lives, then I'd get a big head and I don't want that. So I got to pull back from all that. I have to, people are like, why don't you like hearing these stories? And I'm like, I love hearing them. Okay. It's not that. It's just that like I say, they transfer it to me. And I'm just a person. I'm just a guy, doing a thing. Our device is the best. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best because we care the most.
Yeah, and the quality's there. I mean,
Right.
because I've been in the industry for, 35 or so years, selling products and teaching, I've pretty much seen it all. I'm sure, and I know, David, you've seen a whole lot more than me, where someone will bring, a LED light therapy device to me or whatever, and it might be okay, but I can't tell you how many times someone has said, well, I bought this off Amazon. I paid, and only paid 500 instead of, buying your system that it might have been $3,000, whatever. I'm like, okay, and they said, but it fell apart. Like, I told you. I mean, it's like, listen, we're for anything that helps a person have a better life. And we know that, the notoriety and the attention that photobiomodulation is getting right now is good for the world. However, just because it looks like an InLight product doesn't mean it functions like the InLight product. And, we have seen other devices that catch on fire, or I remember David, you being at a class that we were having, and someone showed you the specs of and I'm not going to say the brand just because of another very famous company's face mask of red light, and you looked at the specs, and they had something like 100 LEDs in their face mask, and you looked at the specs and you said, one of our diodes has more power or intensity than the entire face mask. Am I saying this right?
That's 100% correct.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, in your pads, the least amount of diodes any pad has is what, 180?
Oh.
180 diodes? Is
The
that?
face mask has 104 diodes. We have some pads that only have 90, right? But each one has the same power output per LED, right? So all of ours are the same, no matter if it, how big it is, whether it's a body pad or whatever. But yes.
Okay, and so, all right, now I do have, and again, I know that some people are starting to log on for the correct time, right? But I do, so right now, this might be a good time to show some of the other pads, but to show the systems, because some of the people that are on this call do not have a system, or that would be watching this recording. And so they don't really know exactly what we're talking about, although most of our listeners are already using the system and just want to get some questions answered. But one of the questions we have right now, is the 6-port device the largest one that you make?
Yes, it is. I mean, the 6-port device for me, now remember, I started with a single LED, one milliwatt LED, pulsed at 50%. I got great results with it. To this day, I use the 2-port and 2 pads, and I move it around all the time. And then I've got other people that use 2 6-ports with 12 pads, and they basically cocoon themselves every single day. I will say this, those people are extremely healthy, and I should probably do the same. I just came up the other way, right? Less is more kind of thing. And here's what we've learned. So we put the secondary wavelength in. So we're doing infrared. And let's talk about infrared LEDs. Why infrared? Okay, because they were the first LED. Red LEDs were these little bitty tiny plastic things. When I started, there were no plastic LEDs. They literally were a metal can that had a glass lens around it. There was actually a blown glass lens. So each one of these things were like $14, $15 for a single LED. And they weren't made for infrared light therapy. They literally were made for television remote controls. They came out in the late 70s. We started using them. We had to wire each one by hand. They were 12 milliwatt, pulsed at 50% duty cycle, so 6 milliwatt. It wasn't until we added the secondary wavelength, the red, that we got the amazing benefits. And in one day, companies are coming on. This is in the early 2000s, and they also are using blue and infrared. And I'm getting pressured, and people are like, why don't you add blue? And I'm like, well, I don't add blue because I don't think it's going to be as effective. I don't know if it's effective, right? So we make the blue. And then at the time, I'm suffering from some stomach issues. I don't know if celiac, but it was stomach issues. I had a customer who I'm talking to who was determined to get a hold of me, right? I forgot her name. She gets a hold of me and she's like telling me what it's done for her. She had celiac and she was treating herself abdominally with the lights. And I said, well, that's amazing. And she's telling me how much better she is. And I said, I haven't had the same results. And she said, are you using red or blue? And I laugh. And I'm like, well, I'm using red, of course. At this point, I don't believe in the blue. And she's like, you have to try the blue. So I do. I put the blue in my stomach, and it was life changing. It blew my mind, honestly. I mean, I honestly think the secondary wavelength, remember the infrared, you don't remember this, you don't know this, the infrared LED penetrates much deeper than the visible spectrums of light. So I assume that the infrared is doing all the healing, and the red light is just keeping the body guessing, keeping it from plateauing, right? I tried the blue and infrared, and it was a profound difference. I mean, it helped me in the first treatment. I think that's why recently we added the green. There's been a lot of research on the green. Some ARs asked about it. They said, could you do it? Would you do it? And I said, yes, and we did it. And now we're seeing these results, and now I realize just how much I don't know. I mean, I'm learning every day. I mean, I think every wavelength of light has a specific purpose, and I think we're going to do more and more research on this and find that, more colors of light, more wavelengths of light, increase the efficacy of the product.
Okay, and I am going to pull up, and share as soon as I can figure out how to do this on my screen. Yeah, here we go. Let's see if if I'm sharing. Are you seeing the new screen yet? No, hold on just a second. Just a second, you all. Yes, so the question is, can we talk about the new products? So right now I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen here. Here we go. Okay, now can you see? Yes. All right. I brought it up with the price list only because that's the way I had the graphics available for everything that David's manufacturing right now with the InLight Therapy. So, and again, like I said, if you're watching this and your account authorized rep is somebody that's not us, please talk to them about these products. But here they are. And so, David, do you want to talk about, you want to point to anything, or do you want me to go through this?
No, go ahead. I think you're doing great.
Okay, so just as a review for those of you all who already have systems, or as an introduction for those of you all who don't have systems, we're just going to look right up at the top left part of the screen. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving. Can you, Carol? Yeah. Okay, these are the packages. And at the very top, you see that the most expensive of all of the packages is $49.95. But what you're getting for a system that, for most of us, we've had our system. I had some of my controllers for over 10, 12 years already. And for a piece of electronics to last that long, that's pretty incredible. And I've had some of the pads that long, and if they get worn out, you send them in and they repair them for us at a very reasonable price. So you can see that the platinum system at $49.95 is the most expensive of the 6-port systems, and the least expensive is $29.95. So there's everything in between. What makes it, you're still getting the same great light therapy, but what makes it different is what pads come with that system. So we'll talk a little bit about the different pads and why the different pads and the different wavelengths. So when we're talking wavelengths, we're talking quote unquote colors. So in the platinum system, the thing that makes this the most popular for practitioners and for families who are sharing devices, or a couple that maybe maybe the husband or the wife travels a lot and the other one, is at home, and both of them want to be able to have light therapy. That's one of the reasons that the most popular of all the packages is the platinum system. And so it has two controllers. You can see the little 2-port controller. That means there's 2 places that you can plug the pads in. And then there's a 6-port controller. That means there's 6 places that you can plug the pads in. Every InLight pad will plug into either of these controllers. So I'll use the platinum because of the versatility of how many different things there are in this. These 2 large pads on the right that are red, they look like it's just red light. Every InLight pad except the face mask has infrared. As an infrared as a reminder, humans cannot perceive infrared with the naked eye. So these pads that look red are red in infrared. This pad to the far left that looks blue is blue in infrared. This pad, and these large pads all have 264 diodes of red and infrared, or blue and infrared. This long skinny one in the middle here is called TriLight. All 3 wavelengths that we just spoke about: red, infrared, and blue. This is a very versatile pad because it's, you can put it on the neck, you can put it over a shoulder places. It just makes it easier to use sometimes to have the 180. It's 180 diodes. The one on the bottom is 1/2 the size of these large pads, so it's 132 diodes. And any of these pads can be used anywhere on the body, except we are supposed to tell you not to put infrared directly in the eyes, although the industry is starting to change their opinion of that. Right now, we still say that's why the face mask that's down here at the bottom it doesn't have infrared, because it was thought for all these years that we shouldn't have infrared directly into the eyes. So the face mask is the only pad in the InLight system that does not have infrared. It has red and blue. So that's a platinum system, and that's the reason for that. If we go down to the next system, you'll see that same 6-port controller and only one controller. We have the 264 and the 132, but we have 2 boot pads. Now the boot pads were designed for neuropathy, but we use them for any kind of foot, ankle condition, but they can be used anywhere on the body. I like to use a boot pad around my neck because it hits the clavicle points right here. There's entrance to the lungs and over the heart. And the pads are very, very versatile. Now we go down one more, and I realize that I'm reviewing pads that you all already know about, most of you. And we're going to get into the green and to the others, but some of you may not know about the T-pad. And you can see that the T-pads, again, it's such a versatile pad because you can like wrap a wrist or a knee, or go down, make a cap with it. There's so many things you can do with a T-pad. It's a very, very versatile pad. And so then the other systems, you can see what's in them, just various pads. Now, in the 2-port systems, again, same kinds of pads. They're less in price because you could have just, and this is a price point for people. who maybe they're suffering terribly from neuropathy, but they can't spend $2,000 or $3,000. You can get them into a system here for, $1,100 with a 2-port and 1 boot. And again, that boot pad can be used anywhere. So that's why these different price points. Also, there is an ease. So I just sold the system to a couple that already had a platinum system. They bought a second one. But one of the things was the husband's a pilot and he's not going to drag 6 pads around with him or even 4 pads. He wants 2 pads. Sometimes he wants a boot pad. Sometimes he wants other pads. So a little 2-port, sort of a travel 2-port with 2 pads is just really convenient for that. Okay, now,
Ginger,
yes, go ahead.
can I stop you for just a minute before
Sure.
you get into the individual pads? So Ginger did an amazing job describing everything. Now I want to tell you how the shapes came about. The first pad, we had 50 diodes. We no longer make that. Then we made the 90 diode pad. At one point, a doctor comes to me and he goes, could you make a more dense area pad that was more square? That's when we came up with the 132 pad. Then another doctor says, could you make it twice as big? And that's why the next one is 264. It's literally 2 of the 90 or 2 of the 132 pads put together to make 264 LEDs. The neuropathy pads, when you look at them, you can see that the LEDs are not as dense. And we do that for a reason. Neuropathy So neuropathy is your lower extremities, your feet are diabetic podiatric neuropathy. They're losing the nerve endings, their nerve endings are dying. And when the nerve endings start to die, you get these bee stings, you get these sharp little pokes, it feels like. So we found that if we use the large pad, the 264, and we wrap it around the foot, a lot of people, when the circulation comes back, the pain comes back, and it comes back very intensely. So the neuropathy pads, the boot pads, we call them, the long ones, you wrap around the foot and they increase the circulation slowly and it reduces the amount of pain. The large thin one, which was the 180 she talked about, the Tri 180, that's one of the most popular pads. Once again, that was the first time someone said, could you put red and blue and infrared all in one pad? And I was like, yes. And once again, this is science. I didn't know if it'd work, and it did. Now you got 3 wavelengths of light. Once again, it keeps the body from plateauing. It helps on so many levels. Now we come to the T pad. That was something that people were asking. I would like to wrap it around a joint, an elbow, a knee. That was the original reason we got the T pad. The face mask, okay. I was very skeptical, very skeptical. I didn't want to do the face mask, okay. People ask, you know, we hear that red light, and blue light increase circulation, but the blue light is also good for acne. So I make it, of course, I'm not going to put infrared in it. I put the little goggles in it. That is actually only put the goggles in as a safety precaution. I wouldn't use it that way. I've never used a goggle, so almost nobody has. So that pad became, well, I couldn't sell them. The first 150 I made, nobody bought them. And I had a customer and he said, I said, look, I got these pads. I'll give them to you as like a bonus and you can, add them to your system. And he did. And then he's like, I need 500 more. He's like, these things there, everybody just immediately goes to sleep. And I still don't know the mechanism of it, but for some reason, the face mask relaxes people. It puts them to sleep. When we go to trade shows, my good friend, Rick Perkins, Ginger knows him well. So Rick would say this to everybody. He put all the pads on him, he put the face mask on him, and he would say, now, when you come back tomorrow, I want you to remember how you slept the night before, and I want you to tell me how you slept last night after using the pads. And they would come back and go, I slept like a baby. I slept amazingly. I mean, so later we had to warn people. We would say, hey, I know it's a busy trade show and you're going to lay here for 20 minutes, but there's a really good chance you're going to fall asleep and we're going to have to tap you on the shoulder or wake you up, and it startles people. We just want you to understand that this is, this is going to happen. And they all laugh and go, there's no way I'll ever fall asleep in this situation. And it happens 9 times out of 10. It's just,
Absolutely.
once again, and a happy accident, I'd have to call it that. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, I didn't do it for therapeutic reasons. At this point, I honestly thought that only the infrared was helping, and that, the secondary color, the red or the blue, was a carrier wave. Ginger, I've said enough. Take it over.
Well, no, you're doing great, fantastic. And I think, our belief is so the person has a face mask on, their eyes are closed, the light's going through the closed lid, the light's striking, going through and striking the pineal and the hypothalamus gland. That's our spiritual connection to the top of our head. So it's, just sort of igniting everything, but also it's shifting the person into the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's, we're so often in fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system, the accelerated pedal on nervous system. And we heal when we're in the parasympathetic, which is resting, meditating, sleeping. And so just like David said, I cannot tell you the amount of people that we've had at trade shows where there's 30,000 people in the building and they say that it's impossible that we're doing a demo for them and they say it's impossible. I'm not going to fall asleep. I don't sleep more than an hour at a time. And we're like, okay, well, just in case you fall asleep, we're going to tap you. Is it all right if we tap you on the foot, to wake you up? And they'll be like, I'm not going to fall asleep. And they'll be snoring within, a few minutes. And there's been many times where we had to wake them up, like, come on, somebody else needs that chair, because they were so out of their body. So, yeah. Okay, so we have a question on the frequencies. Do you want to take that one, David?
Yeah.
Why do you use the different frequencies in the different channels? So, take it away.
All right. So, Dr. Paul Noget, Lyon, France, late 60s, 70s. He was doing auricular therapy. He was using harmonics of the musical note A, I believe. Was it E? I'm not positive now. I'm old. I've forgotten. I know this.
I think
That's what we started using. So those frequencies. So Dan got him wrong, by the way. So Dan took 72 cycles per second, or 72 hertz, and he dropped the decimal point with 72.663. And he came up with a maximum of the top at 4672. It's actually 4688, I believe. No difference. I'll tell you this, there's honestly no difference. Here's what I found. Same thing. People will ask this, what's the difference in between a 640 nanometer red LED and a 660 nanometer red LED? And I'll tell you, efficacy, I've seen no difference whatsoever. There's same thing with blue. Blue is, 435 to 450 nanometers, right around there. I've not seen any difference. It's the pulsing, it's the frequency. Here's what we don't know, and here's what I'm getting ready to do is cymatic frequencies. I don't know if anybody knows what cymatics is. I'm going to explain it. If you look at a church cathedral in Europe, you see that they've got a circle and they have these patterns inside of it. And each one of these patterns is a cymatic frequency, which is literally frequency made into a physical form. So if we took whatever frequency, 1 hertz, 2 hertz, 3 hertz, 4 hertz, 1,000 hertz, each one has a particular pattern. I mean, it's next time we talk, I'll be able to show you some diagrams and show you everything. It literally is, well, it's what made me believe that, made me know that there is intelligent design. This can't be an accident. I mean, if you take 432 hertz and you play it with on a metal disc and you put it with sand on top of it, it creates the same shape every single time. And that shape is a visible representation of sound. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I mean, God said he spoke the world into existence. One single word, a sound, a frequency created physical reality, and we can see that with cymatics. So the next thing I'm going to do is, well, if you take a double helix, if you take our DNA, right, which is a columnar form, and you turn it and you put it into a circle, which a double helix will always make a circle, then it's going to make a specific pattern. And that pattern could then be corresponded to a single frequency. And I think that's the next thing about light therapy is to be able to take the physical representation that we've seen forever in cathedrals and windows. I mean, they've known about this for, I mean, at least 1,000 years. I mean, when you look at the cathedrals and you look at the churches all over Europe, you see these shapes, you see the tree of life, you see these circles, right? I think that's the next thing we're going to do is to match a specific wavelength to a certain shape. There's a reason that these churches and cathedrals put these shapes out there. So for me, I know this is a long way of getting around it. Dan picked frequencies, harmonics of musical notes. He got that because he was doing auricular therapy, and he was using the founder of auricular therapy's notations, his advice, his knowledge. Where we're going next is we got to think outside that box, and we got to look at those that are harmonious, because when you do this, right? So each individual frequency, 1 hertz, 2 hertz, 1,000 hertz, 1,001, 1,002, some of them have a beautiful, beautiful physical shape that you see, and some do not. Some actually look quite, disharmonious. They are, sand goes everywhere. I think that's where we're at. I think that, like the double-edged sword, some frequencies heal and some frequencies do not, right? Some things cut and some things heal. And I think the next step is to continue to research these frequencies. It's the reason I still do it, right? Is because I still want to learn. I still want to grow. I still want to know. And so Dan picked these. They're great. Almost every company that makes a light therapy device uses the no-shade frequencies, and they have no idea why. They weren't at the beginning. They didn't do any of this. They just started there. So, Ginger, I think you had something to say.
Right, so just as a review for those of you that may not know, in the InLight Therapy system, in the 6-port system, channel A scrolls through all 7 Noge frequencies.
Right.
And you can Google Dr. Paul Noge, and you can see what the 7 frequencies are. And he worked on embryonic tissue, and he determined, that the different tissues, of course, responded to the different frequencies. So anyway, you can look that up online, or if you've taken our Let's course, then you open your manual and go and review that. On channel B, in the InLight 6-port system, those are 11 of the solfeggio notes, which are musical tones. And if you remember, the Gregorian chants were based on instead of the tuning being 440 hertz, it's 444 based on that. So that distinction seemed to be, for some reason, healing, and there's all kind of science behind that. So that's channel B. And channel C, there's some of A and some of B, right, for regeneration. And also, we called that the anti-aging and regeneration channel, but you refer to it as something else, David. What is it that you say about channel C?
So C for me, here's how we came up with C. We've been copied by a company called Anodyne. They have, well, done a poor copy, but they've made a copy of my device. They copied the electronics almost identically. They left off one resistor and it burned people. That's how I beat them in a lawsuit, a patent lawsuit. Here's how they come at you when you're making something new and they want to steal it. They sue you and say that you copied them. And this happened to me twice, and horrible. I can't even tell you what that's like to have someone that copied your device and then sue you for it, and you have to defend your very existence in the field. So I did what I do. Well, I couldn't beat them financially, so I befriended them, and I made the man that sued me, Greg Terzo, a friend. He and I come to his facility, and he got a Doppler scanning device. And we tried, he only had one frequency, 292. Once again, it should have been 292.663. He got it all wrong. He only had one wavelength of light. He literally has copied a device that I made, God, 1987, I think. And this is around 2002 or three, where he sues me, maybe 2008, I don't know. So he has a Doppler scanner, and we take his device and we put it on the left foot of a person. I'm also at this point, I want to also prove to myself that, well, acupuncture points, if you treat the left side, it still reflects on the right side, okay? If you treat the right hand, it reflects on the left hand. So I'm trying to test all of this at the same time. I'm not going to get, an opportunity to have a device like this. I mean, this device costs hundreds of thousands of dollars at the time. So then we tested it with all of my different frequencies, and we came out with specific frequencies that increase the circulation on the foot. Those frequencies are in C. Okay. Was the efficacy huge? No, I would say 5 to 7% better, but that's still, significant in healing, significant in progress. And that's where we came out with setting C. I mean, it's just been trial and error. It's been observation. It's been willingness to give it a try. I'll also say this: if you have neuropathy in both feet and you only treat one, the other one gets better too. Doesn't get better at the same rate, but it still gets better. I mean, think about that. I mean, for me, it was Dan Paris always said that acupuncture points were like bilateral. And did I believe it? Yeah, because he said it. Did I know it for a fact? No. I had a chance to test it and I learned it. So A, B, and C. A was gosh, I'll think of his name. He's the one that first said, I would like to cycle through all the frequencies. B, once again, using the solfeggio frequencies. I had to look up solfeggio when they first asked me to add it in. I didn't even know the definition. Okay. I was like, solfeggio, what the heck is that? And then that's the truth. And then C literally was science. He was using a device to measure the output of or the increase in circulation. And that's where we came up with the frequencies. And that's why I say that, we have 1 through 7, and most people haven't even delved into it. 1 through 7, there's stuff on the internet where you can Google it, look it up. I know frequency 7 is best for pain, reduction of pain, to the point where the Santa Anita racetrack banned us. They said it was unfair to use the InLight Therapy device on a racehorse before a race because it gave them an advantage. I mean, think about that. What a validation, right?
Right.
When an entire racetrack goes, no, if you use that, you're cheating. It's like giving them a drug. I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we do a lot of work with athletes pre and post training for the same reason. And a lot of us, I know as a pickleball player, I can tell the difference. And I, have many times started to have an injury that I'm like, oh, I better get the lights on that, So if you have a system and you're not using it, take it out. It only works when you actually put it on the body and turn it on. Okay. And so, but the other thing is that, a lot of us use it to help us go to sleep, not just recovery, or to help you meditate or calm down or to get some more energy. There's just so many different things that it helps. Now, we had another question that said, so the numbers of the pads indicate how many diodes? Yes,
Yeah.
on the pads, yes. When we're saying 264, that's 264 diodes.
Yes.
180, at 180 is 180 diodes. And some of the pads, we call them by that name, or the other, or like the face mask, we just call it the face mask. We specifically don't call it the eye mask because we don't want to indicate that we're working on the eyes, even though the eyes may be getting benefit. There's sinus points here, there's a frontal lobe of the brain, there's all kinds of things that are happening with the face mask. You can use it here, you can use it on your elbow, you can use that pad any place that the pad will go. So at this point, I think that we should open it up in case anybody has a question or would like to say anything to David. You will have to unmute yourself. So let's go there.
All right, while we're waiting, Ginger, I'm going to tell you. So we talked earlier about the infrared light affecting the eyes, hurting the eyes. For the first 15 years that I did light therapy, I had a bank of infrared light shining on me every day as I tested all the devices. I think about it, I probably got like 6 hours a day of just infrared, and I couldn't see it, right? I didn't need glasses till I was about 55. I still have dark hair, and I don't dye it. I mean, I don't think for a second that there's anything harmful about any wavelength of light. And that, I'm going to go into blue light. One day, some doctor said blue light is bad. He was wrong and he lied and he had no evidence of it. And to this day, our devices switch off of blue light because they say it's bad for you. If blue light was bad for you, I mean, if you ever take a prism, and a prism, we can get into that, it divides all the lights into the visible spectrum. That's how we got infrared. Sir William Henry put a prism down. He separated light into all the visible spectrums, and he put a thermometer in the blue, one in red, and it's a test because he thought that blue light seemed cooler and red light seemed warmer. And he put another thermometer on the other side of red, and that thermometer was even warmer. And he said there's obviously a wavelength of light outside of red, infrared, and that's when we discovered infrared light. So there is no harmful wavelength of light. If there was, well, the sun would have already taken us all out. So go ahead, questions.
So the next question before anybody turns on their mic is to talk about the green. Why did you come up with the green and infrared pads?
Okay, well, that was a AR, a very good AR, a friend of mine, a friend of yours, Ginger, who had done a lot of research and was seeing that when I started this, it was voodoo. Remember, there wasn't a single study. Nobody had done anything whatsoever to prove that light therapy helped. And more and more articles come out on PubMed, and green light was found to be safe and effective for, several different things. You'll never hear me say what they're good for because I can't. I mean, as the manufacturer, I can't say what these things do because I would be prescribing it, right? So I have to step back and I have to let others, take the reins on that. So we came out with the green lights. I honestly, it was a test. When the AR asked, she said, I've got these people, they would like to try 25 of these. I got 25 people would like to try it. And I was like, would you do it? And I said, yes, I will. And I made five, and I wasn't bringing it out to the network. I hadn't done the research and they did it. And then all of a sudden I was forced into saying, well, yeah, we also have green. Now, anecdotally, let me tell you one of the best things I heard. One of my most trusted ARs and friends who uses the product every single day told me that they put the green face mask on in their office right before a client was going to come in. They've never fallen asleep. They use the blue and red every face mask every day. And she's like, they had to tap me on the shoulder and she woke up. So, I mean, she fell asleep so deeply that people came into her office and she didn't even hear them. Another AR, very great friend of mine, I love her. She said that she saw a diminishing in her sun damage within one treatment. So, now I'm just sitting back and waiting to hear what other people say. I mean, that's what we've done from day one. We started with 1 milliwatt of red, 650 nanometers, right? And now all of a sudden we're up to 72 milliwatts per centimeter squared of infrared with multiple wavelengths. So every day, we learn more. There are other wavelengths. Yellow is coming on. Well, now when you Google LED light therapy, it says the main three wavelengths or four are infrared, red, blue, and yellow. So that's the next thing. I've already got them. I'm already testing them. It'll be a while before we release them, but it's every day learning and growing, and that's why we have green. Well,
Yeah, and so, just a little bit more on green is that, it's really good for a seasonal effectiveness disorder. Now, here in Colorado, we don't have that issue because we have so much sunlight, even in the winter months, but there are many places on the earth that people really suffer from the lack of light and sunlight. And so green, the light therapy is good even without the green, but the green is particularly good for seasonal effectiveness disorder, but it's also good not only for the skin, but for cellulite and for fat reduction. That's another thing that, that I did some research on, and many other things. So we're interested to see what you have to say about the green light and the different things as InLight's coming out with them. So does anybody have a question, comment, or anything right now to share? If so, unmute your mic and let it roll. Don't be shy. Okay, so I guess we don't have any questions right now. Anything else then that you would want to say in closing? I am going to remind people who may not have seen in the beginning about our podcast and all that, but anything else, David, that you can think of? Oh, can we see the little doggy?
yeah.
Who's this?
Sammy uses the lights all the time. Say hi, Sam. And Quinn over here does them too. Our dogs actually seek them out. I put the lights on. If I get up and go to the bathroom and lights are on the chair or wherever I sit, the dogs come and they sit on top of them and I have to move them. Quinn is, we think 13, 14. He's doing phenomenal. I mean, his back ends get a little wibbly wobbly, but yeah, dogs, horses, they respond to this light so much with so much less light that we do. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're out in the sun all day. But once again, we have a cap. I don't sell it or make it anymore. An affiliate of mine, a good friend, Tom Newman, Revitalight does. And when they put the cap on a horse, they trailer. So horses are afraid. They're predatory animals. They get hunted. You put a cap on a horse, and I designed it to meet up with all the acupuncture points, and they just go and relaxed. So it's not just good for people, it's good for horses. It's honestly, you don't even have to put it on them. You can shine it towards them. They're going to get benefit out of it. I mean, think about how many years the lights just had them on tables and they shined up and you know just light it up. I think that's the biggest thing too, Ginger. You and I have talked about it. What frequency do I put it on? I wouldn't worry about that. The first thing I would do is turn it on and put it on. There's no frequency that's detrimental. take the lights, turn them on, put them on yourself, right? Wherever you put them on. Head injuries, all right? So we had a Dr. Greg Hipskin. He's number 2 neurologist in the world, I don't know what his
He's up there.
right? So Greg,
Mhm.
number 1, I think, is Greg Amen, or Dr. Amen.
Daniel Amen, yeah.
Daniel Amen. Those two are, they work together. They're kind of rivals, but he did a white paper on it. He found that basically, you put it on the head, and well, here's the whole story. He was doing SPECT scans, and a mom came in with a son who is self-medicating using methamphetamine, and they did the SPECT scan on him, which breaks the brain into voxels. It does little squares, and it does the circulation everywhere in the brain. And he said, there were a lot of dark areas that showed that there was no circulation whatsoever. The mom says, what could we do? And he's like, vitamins, hydrate. In other words, nothing. We have nothing. I mean, just, a year later, she comes back in, brings the son, he does a scan, and he's like, the circulation is restored to these areas and this doesn't happen. We've never seen it. What did you do? Now, I know none of this at the time. And she says, well, I use the LED light therapy product. And that's when they contact me and I find out everything. So I try it. I had a bad head injury, and I wrapped it around my head and it feels good. It wasn't until we came out with a cap where it comes all the way around your head. And right now you can't find a cap on the website. You will be able to find a cap on the website. We're bringing it back in January. We took it off for a while. Now it's back. That is amazing. I feel floaty. That's the only way I can say it. I put the cap on my head and I feel like I kind of float, like my steps are floating. If I don't do it for 4 or 5 days, if I don't do it for a week or two, and I made that mistake, then I find that if you gave me directions, if you said, David, go here, left, right, right, left, and I'll be like so confused. And after using it, I can track all of that. I can think 3 or 4 steps ahead. I couldn't do it before. I mean, this is just me. It's just anecdotal. I'm just telling you what I felt. We have one of our top ARs, Christina Pigeon. She was in a horrible skiing accident where someone lost control and hit her in the head and broke her orbital socket. She was on 24 milligrams of Dilaudid a day. When I met her, her eyes didn't track. She, was in a bad spot. Now, well, you couldn't tell. I mean, there's no way. Oscar Contreras, another person who fell and impaled himself. He literally had a heart attack while shoveling snow and had a wire come through his head. Didn't pierce the optic nerve, but it hurt him severely. Once again, when I met him, that eye didn't move, and he had like 20% vision. Now Oscar's got 80% vision, doing phenomenal. So, we've come up with these different products. We're bringing the cat back, and we're just gonna keep growing and keep, doing more things.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I was screen sharing and they couldn't see your puppy. So can you
This
bring
is
your
Sam.
dog up? So now that I'm not, there we go.
Sammy
Okay.
says hi.
And he uses light therapy. That's
Sammy uses the light all the time, don't you, Sam? Yes.
awesome.
Yes. And Quinn's over here. Quinn's a 13-year-old rescue. He uses it too. He will not come up tonight. He's being shy.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to just tell everybody that wasn't on in the beginning because we started early that I am going to screen share now, but David was just in Boulder. He came to Boulder for the filming of the first. Well, we started the Let's Keep It Light podcast a couple of months ago, just audio files, with Marcy Denton and myself. Marcy, the main science teacher for our Let's program, the Light Therapy Certification Program. So we got the first 11 episodes filmed, recorded professionally. And then David came to Boulder and we did, we're now starting to do them on film because for a number of reasons. One thing is I'm so visual, and I watch podcasts. I don't just listen to them, but there's 8 episodes already out wherever you listen to your podcast. It's called Let's Keep It Light podcast. But David's episode where there's some post-production work that the guy has to do, but he did a fantastic job. So we'll have that out in the beginning of January or mid-January. And it is something that you'll be able to, share with your people, see it on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube. And it'll be 2 different episodes. And he goes through the whole history of photobiomodulation, the fancy word for light therapy now, the beginning of it and all of it, and plenty. It is packed with information. You're definitely going to want to see that. I am going to go and once again share. I want to share my screen and show you all the those. Let's see if am I sharing now? No, I'm not sharing my screen. Hold on. I should know how to do this. Why doesn't it? Oh, okay. Well, sorry, folks. And now I don't even know how to get back to my Zoom camera. Here we go. Oh, well.
Yep.
But I'm not, nope, I'm not sharing the right screen, am I? No. Okay, hold on, stop sharing.
You can select your screen.
What's that? I know, but I don't see my screen here. Hold on, y'all talk amongst yourself for a second. Let me just see.
Well, I'll do it. All
Okay.
right. I just want to say I can see that Jane Holste, Sally Dyer, Julie Bagali, Tom Banasiak. I recognize all your names. Dottie Bowler, of course. I mean, you guys support us all the time. I just want to say thank you. And you know, every time I actually still do the shipping. It's the favorite part. I get to test the devices. I get to package the boxes and ship them out. It's probably why you guys occasionally I make a mistake because I get busy. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that's on here. The more I talk about it, the more we all talk about it, the faster it grows. I mean, light is light, a photon is a photon. I just happen to feel like, we do it best because, we started it and we care the most. And the fact that you guys use the product every day just means the world to me. And I just, there's no way I can thank you enough. Think about I've lived 40 years in light, 40 years in the light. Who gets to say that? Who gets to say that for 40 years they've made a product that helps other people? I do. And as hard as it was, as difficult as it was, and all the things I had to go through, I'm still blessed. I'm blessed beyond measure. And I think that, I'm getting ready to go through that, what do you call it? My third act, right? At 60, going through that third act. I'm grateful and I'm just joyous and I just can't wait to keep doing it and do more. Ginger, did you find it?
I did, I found it.
All
And
right.
yeah, so David, I think that, it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that, you have your product and your network of, David has said AR a bunch of times. In this, that means authorized representative. Some of you all on this call right now are authorized representatives selling the product. And if you're not, you can become one, but that's not the point of this particular conversation. But talk to the person that brought you to this webinar.
Yes.
And this is how we share the light. And the thing is that I have used other systems. Many of us have used other systems. Again, we're for anything that helps a person have a better life. But I can put my name, my reputation, and my money behind David's product because it's the best on the market, and that's just the bottom line. Okay, so I'm just going to share this screen real quick again to remind you all that we do have a whole network of instructors who you're looking at on the screen. These are the people that have gone through the 3 levels of our that's the light and energy training seminars, all 3 levels to become instructors. And many of them did it for the purpose of being able to talk about light therapy more effectively and efficiently, and not necessarily to teach in a curriculum. But I will say on the screen here, you see Isabel Martinez, and with the black hair. To the far left is Marcy Denton, and most of you all know Marcy and Isabel from taking our courses, and then myself. But Julie Begali here is on this call right now. And over here to the far right, the second one is Judy Lyles. And Judy is a nurse practitioner who has done tremendous work with the VA in Florida with the InLight system, and has brought InLight into the VA hospitals and has done a lot of research. And so Judy is going to be joining us in the recording of our level 2 online program. So that's the beginning of January that we're starting to record her. And she's going to be on some of the podcast and sharing her experience of working with the vets and the and like with light therapy, and specifically with InLight. So I just wanted to, show you all that and remind you that the Keep It Light podcast, it's really Let's Keep It Light, but that was too long. You can see the different episodes if you click on that, but you can also go, we release one a week, and you can also go to wherever you listen to your podcast and listen, from there. But watch, because David, again, is going to be our first filmed presenter with our Let's Keep It Light podcast.
You guys want to listen to that, because I said things I probably shouldn't. I said it all. I mean, some of it I look back on and go, ooh, I'm not sure you should have spilled the beans on that, but it did. So listen to it all. It was from the heart. And I'm happy to share. As you can tell, tonight was great for me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Ginger. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me to Boulder, to Denver. What was that, a week and a half ago?
Yeah, we had a great time. It was
We had a
wonderful.
great time. We really did.
David and I never stopped talking for 3 days.
We did not.
We
No.
did not stop talking for 3
3 days,
days.
right?
We didn't
shared it
have a
all.
pause. We didn't run out of things to talk about. Yeah, it was great. So
Yeah.
anyway, all right. Well, thank you all. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. We love you all. Thank you. And share the light.
Good night.
Okay. Bye-bye.